Peace, everyone, and welcome to Part 3b of the Calibration Problem. We now arrive at the final chapter of this trilogy. In Part 3a, I narrowed our focus to the Qur'an itself. I explained why, in the absence of a superior worldview, it remains my preferred external calibration standard against which I reason downstream. I then mapped the Quran onto the CCC framework. Al-Kitab to coherence, Al-Mizan to calibration, and Al-Furqan to correspondence. Using a real-world bodybuilding case study, I showed how our upstream calibration silently governs what we optimize for, and how temporary success can conceal a miscalibrated worldview that borrows benefits from the future until reality eventually settles the accounts. In the final part, we'll see that this same architecture is not an isolated occurrence. It is the very pattern the Quran uses to explain history itself. Through two Quranic case studies, we'll examine how calibration unfolds across time before bringing all the strands together to conclude the calibration problem. Let's begin. The bodybuilding case study wasn't intended as an isolated analogy. The Quran describes this same pattern repeatedly. One of the clearest examples appears in Surah Al-An'am. Notice the sequence. Reality first sends warning signals. Hardship, suffering, reminders. These are not punishments for their own sake. They are opportunities for reflection and recalibration. But instead of humbling themselves, the people's hearts become hardened. Their internal logic begins defending the very practices that are harming them. The Quran says that what they were doing was made to appear attractive to them. In other words, their calibration no longer follows reality. Reality is forced to follow their calibration. Then comes the temporal lag. The warnings fade. Prosperity arrives. The gates of all things are opened before them. From the outside, everything appears to confirm that their way of life has been vindicated. But prosperity is mistaken for approval. Reality has simply not delivered its verdict yet. Then, suddenly, the gap closes. The deferred consequences arrive all at once. The lesson is the same as in our bodybuilding example. A corrupted calibration can use perfectly coherent reasoning to defend a failing course, until reality finally renders a verdict that no argument can overturn. The previous passage examined the mechanics of a miscalibrated actor. This passage examines the mechanics of miscalibrated observers. The account of Qarun demonstrates the very same reality can produce completely different judgments depending on the calibration of those doing the observing. Qarun attributes his extraordinary wealth to his own knowledge, presenting his success as proof that his model works. When he appears before the people in all his splendor, two very different groups emerge. The first are calibrated to immediately worldly success. They look at what they can see: wealth, status, and influence, and conclude, if only we had what Qarun has. To them, prosperity is evidence that his way of life is correct. The second group evaluates the same reality through a different standard. They understand that reality is still unfolding. They refuse to confuse present prosperity with divine approval, choosing patience while the final outcome remains hidden. Then the temporal lag closes. The earth swallows Qarun and his home. In a single moment, reality overturns the earlier appearance of success. Those who admired him the day before immediately recalibrate, repeating the very words of the wise they had previously ignored. Reality has not changed, only their calibration has. We have now come full circle. Throughout this trilogy, I have argued that calibration is the master key of human reasoning. Before we ever begin collecting facts, drawing inferences, or making decisions, we are already operating from a particular calibration. That calibration determines what we notice, what we count as evidence, how we interpret feedback, and ultimately whether our reasoning serves to discover reality or merely to shield our existing assumptions from it. As the diagram illustrates, life is a continuous feedback loop. Our calibration shapes our observations. Our observations shape our interpretations. Those interpretations guide our actions, and our actions eventually encounter reality. Reality then provides feedback, giving us an opportunity to recalibrate before the next cycle begins. The crucial insight is that calibration is never static. It is continuously being formed, reinforced, corrupted, corrected, or transformed. Every experience, every reflection, and every decision is quietly shaping the kind of person we are becoming. The question, therefore, is not whether we are being calibrated. We all are. The question is whether we are allowing reality to continually refine us toward truth, or whether we are using our intelligence to defend a calibration that reality will eventually overturn. Our responsibility is to continually recalibrate ourselves towards truth before reality forces that recalibration upon us. That, I believe, is the lifelong pursuit of wisdom. This brings us back to the puzzle we introduced in part 1. Throughout this trilogy, we have identified two fundamentally different ways of tracking truth. The first is to piece the puzzle together without ever seeing the picture on the lid. That path is certainly possible, but it is extraordinarily slow. It is filled with false starts, anthropocentric dead ends, and continual recalibration through trial and error. Worse yet, it mistakes delayed consequences for absent consequences, fostering the illusion that humanity has progressed beyond the need for divine guidance. Each generation inherits an unfinished puzzle and, constrained by a single lifetime, passes it on still complete until reality delivers its verdict and the rug is pulled out from under them. The second approach is fundamentally different. Revelation does not replace observation. It does not replace reasoning. It provides the picture on the lid. It supplies an objective frame against which our observations and reasoning can be calibrated. We still have to observe. We still have to think. We still have to test. But we are no longer trying to discover the structure of reality without knowing what the completed picture looks like. And that brings us to the central insight of this trilogy. Reality is ultimately self-revealing. Every model will eventually be tested by reality itself. Revelation simply allows humanity to anticipate what reality will reveal long before time delivers its final verdict. Calibration is the master key of human reasoning. It determines what we count as a fact, how we interpret feedback, and whether our logic serves to discover reality or merely shields our biases from it. Throughout this trilogy, we have seen this principle unfold from multiple perspectives. The bodybuilder case study showed that short horizon correspondence can create the illusion of success while quietly borrowing against the future. The Quranic case studies revealed the very same pattern. Whether an actor rationalizes early warnings or an observer mistakes prosperity for approval, unyielding reality, Al Mizan, eventually breaks every miscalibrated model. That is the temporal nature of reality the Quran repeatedly illustrates through the history it narrates. The alternative is not to abandon reason, but to calibrate it properly. A calibration grounded in revelation keeps us aligned with reality as it unfolds across time. That calibration is never finished. It is continually being refined through observation, reasoning, reflection, and the feedback reality provides. True knowledge, ilm, is therefore not merely accumulating information or optimizing for what appears most beneficial in this world. It is maintaining an upstream calibration anchored in eternal and eschatological truth, trusting that reality is designed to test humanity and having the patience and perseverance to wait until every outstanding moral debt is settled and justice is finally served. That is the Quranic meaning of falah. Not immediate success, but lasting success. A life continually inclined toward truth, where knowledge, action, and being remain in equilibrium. Thank you for joining me throughout this trilogy. Peace, and I'll see you in the next video.